Hello, I'm Mark Walker from AbilityNet, and I'm with Mumsy, and we're going to have a little chat about you and your life and the amazing stuff you get up to. So, could you introduce yourself, please, and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I am Mumsy Odirile from Botswana. I like to call myself the wheelchair babe, so that's my little cute little thing. I usually introduce myself by saying Dumelang, hello, hi. It's Mumsy, the wheelchair babe, and yeah, so that is pretty much who I am. I'm an actress, I'm an MC, I'm a presenter, motivational speaker, small business owner. What don't I do? So yeah, that's practically who I am.
Cool. And when you say you introduce yourself, you've got a social media presence as well, and like a profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love social media.
So, but you said when we were talking, you said you don't see yourself as an influencer. This is more about telling your own story, or
Yeah, I don't consider myself an influencer because I feel like currently there's a weird connotation when it comes to influencing. So I don't really identify as an influencer yet because there isn't one thing that I'm specifically interested in.
Right.
I just simply use my social media to share my story and hopefully inspire people that are like me and kind of just represent my community and show them that there are possibilities with your disability.
Cool. And
Yeah.
so that's a starting point for you, is talking to the community really, and
Pretty
feeling
much.
like that's the connection you'd want to make.
Yeah. When I started off just sharing my life, it was more therapeutic for me, but then along the way I realized that I have more that I can talk about, you know? I realized that it's time that I speak more about my disability. It's time that I tap more into that. And so I started making more content that showed people a bit more about the wheelchair life, which is then why I then became the wheelchair babe.
Okay.
Because the babe part of it is that I also love to be girly. I love all
you're a
things
babe.
beauty, you know? And I just want to show people that you can still be pretty and cute and everything while in a wheelchair.
Cool.
So yeah.
Cool. And do you feel that connection with the community now? I mean, you have connections through whatever means, you know, all the different things you're involved in. You're part of a community globally, presumably. That's part of the joy of social media. But let's start in Botswana, which is where you're from. And tell me a bit about your life there and what you're doing now and the things you're working on, just to give us a sense of what you're doing every day.
In Botswana, I do have what they call 9 to 5, and I do youth work. But when I'm not doing that, I am on screen. I am acting, and that's what people know me mostly for back home. And they really do show their appreciation, and they show their love, and they give me that confidence. I think people also kind of see beyond the wheelchair, and because I share so openly about it on my social media, they don't feel like they need to ask me directly, so they kind of just look at me and I can see the question that they have, but then they already they know who Mumsy is already, so they focus more on Mumsy and not the wheelchair. And then on top of that, I do have my online small business. I should actually call it a growing business. It's still very small, and that's just something that I do to give myself a little extra something, because I do believe that anything can happen. I think with COVID, it showed us that you can't really rely on one stream of income. So that's why I started my small business, and I sell handbags, which taps into my femininity and taps into I just love looking pretty thing. So I use my social media as well to kind of push that as well.
Cool. So where does this entrepreneurial zeal come from then? Where's this energy? That sounds so busy. I mean, it sounds like you're always just ready for another one, right?
I actually am thinking of what else can I do. My father is someone who's into business, so I've always heard that talk, you know. So when I started my small business, I didn't think that I could do it. I was just like, let me give it a go. If it doesn't work out, it's fine. I tried, you know. But so far, it's going. It's going.
Cool.
Yeah.
And let's talk a bit about your representation in the sense of like saying you want to be seen to be showing something about your life that people then understand. I guess breaking down barriers and And then the flip side of that for you is just being treated differently, I guess. And so where does that come from? You were telling me about being in Canada and some of the stuff there about just wanting to tell your story, and that's sort of where it sort of came up from there. Tell me a bit about that.
Yes. When I started in content creation, I was in Montreal and I was by myself that side. And I needed some sort of outlet. So that's when I started my YouTube channel. And I started vlogging my life. I started talking about what I go through. I started sharing. It was more about me in the beginning. And then as time progressed, like I said, I started to want to focus more on talking more about issues of disability. When I was in Canada as well, while I was studying, because I was there studying theater.
Okay.
First of all, when I was accepted at one university, the university that I actually wanted to go to, they had to withdraw the admission because they realized that their theater was actually not wheelchair accessible.
Okay.
So I had to then go with my second option, which was in Montreal. And then I got there, and it was different. It was quite challenging. And I remember there was a day when I was in one of my acting classes, and the professor was just not very open to accommodating me and my needs. Because obviously with theater, it's very physical, and you do a lot of things. So growing up, I've always learned how to adapt, but I felt like she didn't give me a chance to maybe teach her or at least try and understand what it is that we're trying to achieve. Because, for instance, if you're trying to do an exercise that is focused on maybe cardio or something, perhaps let's try and find something else that will help me achieve that same thing, but might not necessarily be, I might not be able to do, So that struck a nerve, and that was the first time that I was actually confronted with the fact that you do have a disability.
Okay.
And because I was alone, YouTube
You wanted
became
an
my
outlet.
yeah, and YouTube became my outlet, and I talked about it, and I realized that people actually don't know much about disability, and some are not even open to learning. And I was like, I'm going to force this down their throats. They're going to include me, and I'm not going to have somebody else go through what I went through, because it really did quite a number on my emotions and on my mental health, to a point where that is when I was really confronted with depression. That's when I got to experience depression. And it was because I couldn't do what I loved and what I knew I was talented and gifted in, because somebody just chose to be ignorant and not create space for me. So my life is just not just for the person that is like me, but for other people as well, to know that it's important that they create space for us to be able to express ourselves and be ourselves and do what we love and chase our dreams. Yeah.
And I guess as a content creator, that's at the root of that, because you're in control.
Exactly.
It's not like when you go and it's your set that you're going on. It's your script you're reading. You've got that 100% control. I guess that's the joy of it for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then there must have been times when that didn't work, when you were acting. I mean, is it how common is it that they haven't accommodated you within a set for something that you're doing as an actor?
Back home in Botswana, I'm actually the only person in a wheelchair that is actually on screen.
Okay.
And I think that's mainly because, and this is just me assuming, that people just don't think that they actually can penetrate that market and be a part of. But because I'm Mumsy and I'm just going to push boundaries and see how far I can go.
Yeah.
And I love to make people uncomfortable so that they can then see that, I have had to be very proactive in, when I'm getting to an audition, I know that most script writers don't write for someone in a wheelchair. So I already go in with that mindset, knowing that the chances of me getting this job are quite slim, but I will have made a mark and I will have opened their eyes to see that actually maybe we could work around it. Maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to get a call and be like, oh, we actually have this role that we could consider you for, or that we have written specially for you. The sets are obviously not very wheelchair friendly or disability friendly in general, because you have a lot of cords, you have the lights, you have things that are just all over the place and people moving around, and sometimes it's a very tight space as well. So when you come in with your Ferrari, your wheelchair, and you're like, I need this space, you're taking up space, there are 3 different cameras and you're sharing this set with all these, so it gets a bit tricky there, and you then have to kind of figure out, okay, so maybe I can do this scene off my chair, and I can, you just
Right,
kind of
just
try to
adapt.
play around with that. But it's very important that you work with a production and a team that is willing to work around stuff
Yeah.
like that. It makes it easier.
And I guess I'm thinking just to round it up really, and thinking about the next steps. You've been playing the long game a little bit. You've been getting in there and showing them what they need to do. So what do you feel like the next big thing is? What's the thing that's at top of your to-do list for the next couple of years? Is it acting, or is it the social media profile? Is it the having the community connections? Which of those bits are you sort of? How does that knit up for you?
I feel like right now, honestly, the reason why I introduce myself as an actress first is I'm an actress first before anything. That's
Right.
who I identify as. Everything else it stems from there. But right now, I think my focus is in making sure that the creative space is accessible for everyone. That is performance spaces being made more accessible, making things like even scripts for people who are blind to be able to read those scripts for themselves as well. Just to talk more about that and make people in the industry realize that it's very important to be inclusive in that space as well, because there's so many talented people with disabilities who actually reach out to me on my social media and they ask me for opportunities and stuff, and because I know that we're not really there, I don't know how to really break it down to them.
Okay.
I'm tired of, I've always said I don't want to be the poster child for people with disabilities in the industry. I want to bring them along. I want everybody to have that opportunity to also follow their dreams. So my focus is really just bringing the arts and disability inclusion together, and let's just all have a beautiful, colorful, artful life, whether you have a disability or not. Let us all just be creatives.
Marvellous. I've been properly mumsied there. It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about what you do.
Thank you so much.